Your spouse is in love with somebody else. I'm so sorry. I know it had to be very tough because you suspected it a long time before you actually knew. You started seeing the signs. You started thinking something's wrong here. Your spouse began to pull away from you emotionally. Things began to change in your relationship, and you knew that something just wasn't right. But when you asked the questions, all you heard was denial. No, I just had to work late. No, I don't know what I did with that extra money. I think it was when I went drinking with the boys the other day and we had a couple of extra beers. And so they just lied to you for a while, trying to put you off. If you persisted in asking questions because things continued to get worse, then after a while, rather than getting denials, you got anger and sarcasm. Like firing back at you. Why can't you just believe what I tell you? Or sarcasm like, oh, you're always thinking somebody else is after me, something's going on. And they do that to just push you further and further away. But the fact that you're watching this video tells me that in all likelihood, you've gotten to the point where that now you know. As a matter of fact, maybe your spouse has already said to you, I don't love you anymore. Or I love you, but I'm not in love with you. And they're letting you know that there is someone else, that they are in love with him or her, and that they're going to leave you for that other person. And it's devastating. I know, I understand. I work with these things every day of my life. Hi, I'm Dr. Joe Beam. I'm so sorry for your pain, but I'm here to encourage you. Just because of the fact that your spouse is having an affair, even if he or she has said, I'm leaving you, even if he or she has already moved out, maybe even living with the other person, that does not necessarily mean that your marriage is over. It may, but not necessarily. As a matter of fact, if you don't mind, see that button right down there that says subscribe. We talk a lot about marriages and relationships and family, and we would love for you to know when we're doing new videos. So just click subscribe down there and you'll know all the things we're doing, and you can watch the ones that are relevant to you. But right now, let me talk about how your life's changing. I mean, maybe your spouse vacillated for a while when you first had the evidence and proof. Like, I'm going to go be with my lover, then no, maybe I'll stay with you. I'm going to be with my lover, maybe I'll stay with you. And so that vacillation went on, and you went between hope and despair, which made things even worse for you. Then came the divorce demands. Like, you will give me a divorce. And in these divorce demands, it was like, you will do this, this, and this, or I'm going to make life miserable for you. Like, if you don't give me what I want, I'm going to take the kids away from you. If you don't give me what I want, I'm going to financially destroy you. All kinds of threats and stuff where that he or she was actually trying to intimidate you to where you just acquiesced, that you would just do whatever it is that he or she wants. Don't go get an attorney because that'll just make things more expensive. I'll use my attorney. You just sign the papers. Everything will be fine. And maybe even in that process, they tried to isolate you. Now, don't tell anybody about this. For example, if you were part of some church, don't you dare tell the pastor what's going on. They'll be telling you, don't say anything to your mom, don't say anything to your dad. You certainly don't say anything to anybody who works with me. You don't talk to our friends. You don't tell our kids. You don't do any of this stuff. And then often that's associated with threats as well, because if you do that, this is the negative consequence I'm going to bring about for you. Or even trying to make you feel guilty, like, we can be friends afterwards if you just go along with this. But if you do any of those things, we'll be enemies for the rest of our lives. And then they keep trying to make you think it's somehow your fault. They're blaming you. If you'd have been a better person, this would have never happened. So you better be a good person while we're going through the divorce, meaning give me what I want, do what I want, do it the way I wanted. And that way, maybe things won't be quite as bad for you because you see, really all this is your fault anyway. Any of that sound familiar? Been through any of those things? You may not have been through every bit of that, but my guess is because of the fact that your spouse is in love with somebody else, if he or she has finally admitted that, if the divorce word has come up, I'll guarantee you that you've been through some of those things and you may wind up going through all of those things. Does that then mean that things are hopeless? No. But many people will tell you that it is. There'll be your friends, your family, who if they find out about it are going to say, divorce the bum. I mean, how dare he cheat on you? Once they cheat, there'll always be a cheater, divorce him. Once she's been unfaithful, she's a slut, she'll always be a whore, divorce her. Because that's how people tend to think. Now, it's not necessarily because they're bad people or evil people. It's because of the fact that they just love you too much. And they see you hurt, and they're mad at this person that hurt you, which means that they're not the best people to be listening to. Oh, they love you. You want their support, but their advice is going to be highly prejudiced. Or maybe you've even seen a marriage counselor. We love good marriage counselors. They are worth their weight in gold. But there are other marriage counselors out there that are not very good at all. As a matter of fact, you may have gone to see one of them already, and he or she has made it worse than it was. Seriously, we hear those stories all the time. Now again, the awesome ones, wonderful. Glad they're there. Man, they're fantastic. But the ones that are not, they're the ones that look you in the eye and say, well, he or she's in love with this other person. You need to just end this. Or they'll say, I've talked to you for a couple of sessions. I'm going to tell you this is hopeless. Forgive me because it's going to sound like a 30-second commercial here, but we got a ton of people that come to our workshops for marriages in crisis who tell us that they're there even though their counselor told them they had no hope and the best thing they could do is divorce each other. And yet, we, over the years, have seen a success rate of 3 out of 4. Seriously, 3 out of 4 of those couples actually saved their marriages and are married 7 years later, even though their counselors were saying it's hopeless, you need to divorce. Are there hopeless situations? Yeah. Is it your situation? Don't think it is just because somebody says it is. Don't think it is because your spouse says it is. Don't think it is because you're just full of despair right now. There's some other things you need to look at first before you decide if this is hopeless or if there's something we can do. And maybe the first thing to do is to ask yourself this question about your spouse. Is my spouse a bad person doing a bad thing? Or is my spouse a good person doing a bad thing? If your spouse is a bad person doing a bad thing, then why would you want to save the marriage? What I mean is, if your spouse has been morally corrupt since the time you've known him or her, and it's all been about his or her life and what he or she wants, and the heck with anybody else, what anybody else feels, what anybody else needs, it's all about me, 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 me. And that's not just the way you're feeling right now because you're hurt or because you're mad, but you've known for a long, long period of time, my spouse is just not a good person. Then maybe you need to let the marriage go. But did you hear what I said? Don't just come to that conclusion now. Oh, it's always been about me, but you're only reaching that conclusion because you're hurt and you're angry. I'm talking about if you felt this for a long period of time when things didn't appear to be this bad, then maybe your spouse is a bad person. But most of the cases that we see, the person who's cheating, the person who's in love with somebody else, the person who wants out of the marriage, typically is not a bad person. They're typically a good person who's doing, based on if you use the morality of that, if you're married, you should stay married, you shouldn't cheat on your spouse. It's a good person doing a bad thing. Well, good people doing bad things are worth rescuing. Bad people doing bad things probably can't be rescued. So ask yourself that question. Is my spouse a bad person doing a bad thing or a good person doing a bad thing? And if you conclude that my spouse is a good person doing a bad thing, then maybe, just maybe, you need to try to save this marriage. Now, there are 3 things that you shouldn't do. Number 1 is don't whine, don't beg, don't plead. Don't try to manipulate your spouse into staying with you. It doesn't work. As a matter of fact, the more controlling, manipulative, clinging you become, which includes things like whining and begging and pleading, the more you do that, the more you push that person away from you. It's not attractive. As a matter of fact, it's repulsive. Now, I know you don't mean to be repulsive, and I'm certainly not saying that you are repulsive. I'm saying that that kind of behavior is repulsive. And rather than bringing a spouse back toward you, it's going to push your spouse away from you, so stop doing that. And a second thing not to do, don't quit too early. You say quit? I mean quit trying to save the marriage. Don't give up too easily. Well, my counselor said I should. My mom said I should. Therefore, I just should. There are so many marriages that could have been saved and made good again. That is, the standing spouse, the one who wants the marriage to last, didn't give up too easily. Now, is there a time when you do quit? When you say, that's it, there's nothing else I can do, I need to let it go, it's over, it's done? Yes. I don't have time in this video to explain to you when that happens, but that time does come. But I'm saying, don't do it too early. And the last thing is, don't try to punish your spouse. Well, you're cheating on me, so I'm going to make life miserable for you. I'm going to tell all your friends about how bad you are. I'm going to call up your boss and say that you're having an affair with a woman in the next office. Well, you can do all those things if you wish. We call it throwing the other person under the bus. And if you're ready for your marriage to be over, go for it. I mean, if you want to live with the fact that you caused your spouse a lot of pain, if that's what you really want, then you certainly have the right to do it. But if you have any desire at all to try to save the marriage, then that activity is not going to help you put the marriage back together. As a matter of fact, it's going to alienate him or her even more. By telling all of his friends, telling his boss, her friends, her boss, her mom, her dad, you're not doing any good by throwing people under the bus. Now, does there come a time sometimes when you do need to tell people because you need support? Yes, there does come a time for that. But if you're really trying to put the marriage back together, right now is not the time. So did you hear the 3 things you don't do? Don't whine, beg, or plead. Don't quit too early, and don't try to punish your spouse. So then what are 3 things that you should be doing? Okay, the first thing, and somehow this becomes so difficult for people, but it's absolutely essential. You need to take care of you. Now, you can go on our website and find out about a thing called PIES, P-I-E-S. It stands for physical, intellectual, emotional, spiritual. It's something that you do to take care of your body, your mind, your heart, and your soul. Now, you don't even have to be religious for that soul part to work, okay? But you go and you find our articles about the PIES. You can find podcasts we've done about PIES. You can go to Marriage Helper, that's marriagehelper.com. If you look and you can't find them, then you call us. There's a toll-free number on the bottom of your screen there. Just look at that number and you call us. And we'll help you find those resources, and those resources are free. It helps you work on you. Because no matter what happens next, you need to take care of you. Now, believe it or not, it may become a major factor in leading your spouse back to you. It can play a big, big role there. But even if it doesn't, it's still the best thing you need to do for you. So number 1, take care of yourself. Don't let yourself fall apart physically. Don't let yourself fall apart emotionally, intellectually, spiritually. You need to take care of you. Now, the second thing to do is to get the right help. Notice I said right help. There are a lot of people out there who will claim to help you that actually are going to do more harm than good. How many, if you want, you can go looking around the internet and how do I save my marriage? And somebody will sell you a set of tapes or something, CDs, downloads, whatever, at $49, $79, $99. And they say, that's all you need, it's going to save your marriage. Well, they're going to say things like, I'll give you the magic words to say. One we saw not long ago, the guy actually said, once you follow my system, your spouse will come back begging you to forgive them, sexually craving you every day for the rest of your life. There is no magic word. There is no magic formula. You understand? It's going to be work to put a marriage back together. So when I say get the right help, skip the charlatans. If you want to just throw your money away, we're a nonprofit. Send it to us and we'll use it to help people. But don't get the wrong help. Also means don't necessarily listen to your friends and your family because they can misguide you. It also means if you're going to get to a marriage counselor, ask this question before you go see him or her. Actually, ask these questions. Number 1, will I be your client? Will my spouse be your client? Or will the marriage be the client? If they say, I don't know what you're talking about, hang up the phone and call another one. You want one where the marriage will be the client. If they try to explain to you, no, that's not valid, you'll be my client or your spouse will be my client, that's not what you're looking for, because our experience is marriage counselors who focus on those things tend to help you split up. Now, I'm not saying that necessarily is going to happen, and I certainly don't know whatever counselor that you know or have called, but I'm saying our experience says you need to call the ones who believe in helping the marriages stay together. We hear from people every day who tell us how they went to marriage counselors and it actually ended their marriage rather than saving it. So if you're going to get help, get the right help. Now, you might be thinking, well, you're saying call you guys. Well, obviously we believe with the right help, or we wouldn't be doing these videos. But if you don't want to use us, that's your choice. It's your privilege. You can pick whoever you want to, but make sure it's somebody that believes in saving marriages. Somebody who is not going to tell you what to do. We never would. Somebody who actually will try to understand and help both of you and treat everybody, you and your spouse both, with absolute respect. That's who you need. Now, Sure, we'd love to help. We're a 501c3 nonprofit that would love to help you with your marriage. If you don't want us, that's certainly your privilege, but find the right help, not somebody that's going to do more harm than good. As a matter of fact, in the comment section below, if you've been to people to help you that actually did more harm than good, write your stories down there. I mean, you don't have to write paragraphs and paragraphs, but at least write enough down there in the comment section that not only we, but other people can see how the people that were supposed to be helping you actually did more damage to your marriage. People need to see those kinds of things. And if you find the right kind of help or have found the right kind of help, you can write about that down there as well. Now, the third thing to do, remember the first one? Take care of you. Number 2, get the right help. Number 3, use the right approach to get your spouse to want to get the help with you. Now, if he or she's in love with somebody else, that's going to be hard to do. Probably you can't just walk in and say, hey, I see that you're in love with her. I see you're in love with him. Let's go get the right kind of help. And they're going to go, great idea. I was just thinking the same thing. Probably not going to happen. So there is an approach to do it. Now, we're not talking about manipulation. Manipulation never works. We're not talking about deception. That doesn't work either. But there are some things that you can do that you can use to get your spouse to go to help with you. For example, it could be something as simple as saying, for me, so that I can have closure. People who come to our workshop use this one a lot. Marriage Helper offers a 3-day intensive. It is designed to put marriages back together, but they don't twist your arms to do that. They don't try to force anybody to get married again. For me, for my own closure, to help me understand how this thing fell apart and how I can know about how to do a better relationship in the future and even be able to put closure with you, would you go to that 3-day workshop with me? Or sometimes people offer a trade. Like if you'll go with me, for example, when they come to our workshop, if you'll go with me to that 3-day workshop, I will give you this in the divorce. There are other things that people do as well, but it's always in terms of understand it's not trying to force or manipulate the other person. It's saying this is something I'll do for you or something I'm asking you to do for me. Will you do that? Well, there's a lot more. If you call that number at the bottom of the screen that you see there, you can talk to one of our client representatives. And if you're interested in what we offer, then they'll help you understand some ways to approach your spouse to come. And they'll also tell you about other things we offer if your spouse doesn't want to come. That can be of benefit to you. But did you hear me? Please don't whine, beg, or plead. Please don't quit too early. Please don't punish your spouse, at least not now. What do? Take care of you, get the right help, and use the right approach. Hey, call us, contact us, write your comments below. I hope you understand one thing. It's not necessarily over. It's not. And we'd love to help you figure out a way to put this marriage back together and make it good again.